Hello students, this is the platform of KVSR Jabalpur online classes. Today we will take up a chapter from English, class 9th. I am JIGYASA GUBRELE, TGT English from KV number 3, SAGAR. I hope you are enjoying and fruitfully using your lockdown period. See children, this is the book cover which I have brought for you. The book is Beehive, the textbook in English. This is for class 9th. Today we are going to take the poem The Road Not Taken by Robert Frost. First of all, let us see and know about the poet Robert Frost. This is a photograph. Now let us see and know about the poet. Robert Frost was an American poet. His work was initially published in English before it was published in America. He is highly regarded for his realistic depictions of rural life. Frost was honored frequently during his lifetime, receiving 4 Pulitzer Prizes for poetry. He became one of America's rare public literary figures, almost an artistic institution. He is one of the most famous American poets. Next year also, children, you will read a poem by Robert Frost in your 10th class, so remember him. This is the poem from your syllabus. The Road Not Taken. 2 roads diverged in a yellow wood, and sorry, I could not travel both. And be one traveller, long I stood, and looked down one as far as I could, to where it bent in the undergrowth. Then took the other, as just as fair, and having perhaps the better claim, because it was grassy and wanted wear. Though as for that, the passing there had warned them really about the same. And both that morning equally lay, in leaves no step had trodden black. Oh, I kept the first for another day. Yet knowing how way leads on to way, I doubted if I should ever come back. I shall be telling this with a sigh. Somewhere ages and ages hence, 2 roads diverged in a wood, and I took the one less travelled by, and that has made all the difference. This was a beautiful poem written by Robert Frost, The Road Not Taken. Let us see what the lines mean. First of all, dear students, we see here in the yellow wood 2 roads diverging. Can you? Yes. God puts a human being on crossroads. At every turn of life, man has to make a choice, and every choice gives his life a new turn. Here in this poem, the poet narrates a situation in his life when he had to make a choice between 2 roads. The 2 roads had diverged, as you can see in the picture, in 2 different directions. He was interested in traveling on both roads. But every man has his own limitation. And you cannot travel both the roads at a single time. So being one traveler, the poet chose the one which was less travelled by. Standing in front of 2 roads also symbolize our choices in life, in our career also. When there are options in our career, we have to choose what we are going to become in future. When you reach your 11th class, you will also be choosing your subjects, and there also you will be in dilemma which subject to take. That is the time when you will remember Robert Frost, because the choice you make at the beginning, very beginning, will make a large difference in your life. So this is the similar to the career options we have in life, and choose one out of them. Let's move on to the lines of the poem. First stanza. Two roads diverged in a yellow wood, and sorry, I could not travel both. Here the poet says that the two roads diverged, they divided in a yellow wood. Yellow wood here means that it is depicting autumn, dullness. The poet says that in a jungle there were two roads. Both roads go in different directions. As the poet has used the term yellow wood, it seems that the leaves have turned lifeless and yellow. The poet feels sorry that he could not travel both the roads. And sorry, I could not travel both. As be one traveler, long I stood. What did the poet do? He stood there for a long time, thinking, deciding what he has to do, which road he should travel upon. And looked down as one as far as he could. And what did he do? He looked at both the roads, at one road and then at the other road. And he looked at the one as far as he could to where it went in the undergrowth. As he was thinking, he noticed that one of the roads bent, means it took a curve in the trees and the shrubs and finally disappeared. Here in this stanza we learnt some new words like diverged, means separated and took a different direction. Yellow wood, a forest with decomposing leaves. Yellow, depicting the season autumn. Undergrowth, dense growth of plants and bushes, means the forest. In this stanza we learnt that the speaker describes his position. He has been out for walking in the woods and comes in between the diversion of two roads. He stands there looking as far down each one as he can see. He would like to try out both, but doubts he could do that. So therefore he continues to look down the roads for a long time, trying to make his decision about which road to take. Coming to the second stanza. Then took the other, as just as fair, and having perhaps the better claim, because it was grassy and wanted wear. Though as for that, the passing there had warned them really about the same. Here, in the second stanza, the poet says that he took the other road, as just as fair. It was just as the same as the first one. And having perhaps the better claim. He said that he thought that this road is having a better claim. He should go on this road. He liked it because it was grassy and wanted wear. The road was grassy. It seemed that not many people had passed from that road, and it wanted wear. It wanted that some people should go from there. Though as for that, the passing there had warned them really about the same. Though when he started traveling on that second road, he saw that many people have gone from that road also. Here we came to know some new words like fair is as good as the other one. Claim means better option. Grassy, unused. The road was grassy because it had not been used earlier. It wanted wear means it had not been used and some should use it on that time. So once again, coming to the second stanza and what we read in that stanza, What we understood there? Let's see. He looked down the first one to where it bent in the undergrowth. This is the line which we ended in the first stanza. And then the second one, and he decided to take the other path because it seemed to have less traveled than the first. So he looked at both the roads, but he decided to travel the second one. But then he goes on to say that they actually were very similarly worn. When he got on that road, when he started walking, he saw that they were similarly worn. Means people had traveled there also. The second one that he took seems less traveled, but as he thinks about it, he realizes that they were really about the same. Not exactly the same, but only about the same. People had went on that road also. Coming to the third stanza. And both that morning equally lay in leaves, no step had trodden black. Oh, I kept the first for another day, yet knowing how way leads on to way, I doubted if I should ever come back. So in the morning, when the poet started to move upon that road, what he found that leaves were equally lying there on both the roads. And both looked like equally, nobody had walked from that road. But the poet, after all, he had decided to take the first road. Once again he is doubting what should he do. But he once again decides that, he will keep the first road for the another day. He has decided now that he will keep the first road for another day. Yet knowing, very well he knew how way lead on to way. He knew very well that this way maybe when he goes on the second road further, he will lead to another road, and then there may be another road, and further on he may move on, and maybe he may not be able to come back to the road which he is deciding just now that he will keep it for another day. He doubted. In the last line he says, I doubted if I should ever come back. He doubted that he will never come back from the second road, but still he decides that I'll keep the first one for the another day. Here one word was there which you should know the meaning of, that is trodden. Means crushed. Means people should walk over there. So in the third stanza, what we have learnt? The third stanza continues with the possible differences between the two roads. He had noticed that the leaves were both fresh fallen on the roads and had not been walked on. But then again claims that maybe he would come back and also walk on the first one sometimes. But he doubted he would be able to, because in life one thing leads to another and time is very short. Coming to the last stanza, that's the fourth stanza. I shall be telling this with a sigh, somewhere ages and ages hence. Now the poet thinks about the future. He is telling us what will be the consequences of this decision and what will be his thoughts when he takes this choice and the circumstances which he faces in future. Now he's thinking about those circumstances. He says, I shall be telling this with a sigh. Here the word sigh can be a sigh of relief, happiness, or sadness. It could be anything. It could be happiness also, and it could be sadness also. It depends on the choice the person makes in his life. So here the poet says that here he has decided to take the road of his choice, but still maybe somewhere ages and ages hence, means in future, after the consequences, after the result of his decision, two roads diverged in a wood, and I took the one less traveled by. The poet says that I will decide that day that the size of relief, of happiness or of sadness when the result of the road traveled comes. I took the one less traveled by. The poet took the road which was less traveled by. Many people had not traveled on that road, but the poet chose that road because he was adventurous in nature and he wanted to see what lies there. And next the poet says, and that has made all the difference. In the poem, the poet lastly says that the choice which I made earlier has made all the difference, and that has made all the difference in his present life. So here, after all, in the end, the poet will be happy for what he has chosen. Here, sigh is a deep breath. It could be of happiness or of sadness. Hence means here, means in the future. Now thinking about what was given in the last stanza, a quick recapitulation we'll see. In this poem, the word difference is taken in a positive way. But there is nothing in the poem that suggests that this difference signals a positive outcome. But taking difference to mean a positive difference, they think that the sigh is one of relief. However, a sigh can also mean regret. There is the oh dear kind of sigh, but also oh what a relief kind of sigh. Which one is it? We do not know. If it is the relief sigh, then the difference means the speaker is glad he took the road. He did. If it is the regret sigh, then the difference would not be good. The speaker would be sighing in regret. Okay, so the poem ends here. And now we will summarize the poem in very short. Let us see. From the beginning, you remember the poem, everybody knows now that the name of the poem is The Road Not Taken. It is written by Robert Frost. And what are the key points? What are the main points? That the poet says that once he was walking down the road and reached a fork, means a diversion where two roads were there. He could walk with one of the paths only. He took time to choose the right path. He inspected them to decide which was a better option and then chose the one which seemed less walked over. You remember? Yes, he took the second road, the one which was less walked over. He kept the other one for some other day, although he knew that he would never get the chance to walk over it. He would go further on the chosen path and not get a chance to go back on it. As it walked on the chosen path, he realized that both the paths were similar. He felt that his future depended on the choice that he made. Now let us see some questions. After reading the poem, would you like to answer some MCQs? Let us see. Okay, children. The poet stood at the intersection of a wood painted yellow, an autumn forest, trees with infected flowers, or woods which is yellow in color. Shall we see the answer? Yes, an autumn forest is the right answer. Yellow color was depicted, the leaves were yellow, and autumn forest is the answer. Coming to the next question. The poet regrets that he could not travel on both the roads simultaneously. He has become old. The roads are covered with thick undergrowth. The paths are not clearly visible. Let's see the answer. Yes, the poet regrets that he could not travel on both the roads simultaneously. He wanted to travel, but because of some limitations, he could take only one road at one time. Next question. The poet finally chooses the road which has been traveled by many, which looks more attractive, which very few trodden on, which has less grass. Once again, what does the poet finally chooses? Which road does he choose? Traveled by many, the one which was attractive, which very few trod on, which has less grass. Shall we see the answer? Yes, you all were correct. The answer is which very few people walked on. The poet, as I told you, was adventurous. He walked on the road which was trodden by very few people. Let's move on to one more question. Yes, here you have to remember a line from the poem. Let us see. Quote a line from the poem to show that it was not easy for the poet to decide which road to follow. Option 1. Two roads diverged in a yellow wood, and sorry I could not travel both. Long I stood and looked down as far as I could. So, which line shows us that the poet found it very difficult to decide which road to follow? Let us see the answer. Yes, long I stood. What did the poet do? He stood there for a long time, as you remember, deciding which road he has to take. Next one. Pick out the lines which say that the two roads looked similar that morning. This question is from the third stanza. Means the next morning when the poet wanted to walk on or start his travel, which line from here tell us that the road looked similar that day? First one. Oh, I kept the first for another day. Yet knowing how way leads on to way, I doubted I should ever come back. Both that morning equally lay in leaves, no step had trodden back. Let's see the answer. Yes, the answer is both that morning equally lay in leaves, no step had trodden back. When the poet started his journey, though he had taken the choice beforehand, but when he started his journey, he saw that both the roads looked the same. Here you can see this lady standing with two roads diverging here in the picture and deciding. So here the poet also stood like this, deciding. Both roads looked same, which one to go. This is the next day when he was starting to travel. Okay students, so that was all that I could do with the poem with you, and I hope it was a happy learning to you. You tried to follow the poem. Please go through the poem and try to work the question answers which are given in your textbook. They will help you, and the MCQs which we covered just now, which we talked about just now, they will help you to cover the short answer type questions in your examination. Thank you. Have a nice day. See you again.